Welcome back to the Ultimate Guide to Shutter Speed. I'm David Molnar, your photography mentor, and in this lesson right here, we're gonna actually show you how to change your shutter speed on a camera that looks just like yours, whether it's a Nikon, Canon, or a Sony. Hey folks, David Molnar here, your photography mentor. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to control your shutter speed on the Canon Rebel T6i. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the mode from automatic all the way over here to M for manual mode. And I want to show you how to change your shutter speed in manual mode first, and then we're going to switch over to another mode called shutter priority in just a second. So it's really simple. Right here, you actually see these little icons right here that says 1/200th of a second. That's the duration of time. That is the shutter speed. That is what we are currently on. This dial up here, right in front of the shutter release button is actually what changes the shutter speed, and you can see that changing right here, okay? When you're looking through the viewfinder, you can actually see the same setting changing as well in real time. And if you're looking in live view mode, you should be able to see it changing right here as well. This is 25, which stands for a 25th of a second. When you're not in live view, it's actually showing you 1-25th of a second. It's the same thing, just so you know. So as you're changing the shutter speed with this same dial right up here, you see it changing right here. It says 15, now it says 60th of a second, and you can actually see the exposure, the brightness changing in our picture right over here. And as you change the shutter speed, you can see it changing right here. So I'm going to turn live view off. That's simply how you change the shutter speed on the Canon Rebel T6i. Next thing I want to teach you is how to change it to shutter priority mode. So on the Canon cameras, you're going to switch this over to TV, which is shutter priority. It stands for time value. TV stands for time value, but it's a shutter priority mode, the same mode that Nikon, Canon, Sony, Fuji, all these other camera brands have. It's a universal mode that allows you to simply set the shutter speed, and the camera automatically sets everything else, sets your ISO and your aperture for you. So all you have to do is decide what speed you want to shoot. It's a wonderful mode, especially for learning shutter speed. So it's actually going to be the exact same thing here in shutter priority mode. It's the exact same slider, exact same dial up here at the top. We'll change it and it'll show it changing in the live view mode as well right here. And then also if you're looking through the viewfinder and you're not in live view mode, you would be able to see this little shutter speed indicator changing inside of there as well. Next thing we're gonna do is switch over to a Nikon camera and show you how to use the Nikon. All right, so we've switched to the Nikon D3400. The first thing I'm gonna do is switch it over from automatic mode to manual mode up here at the top. This way, in manual mode, we can completely adjust all of the settings. So I'm gonna press the shutter button just to kind of trigger and initiate this screen, this info screen on the back. Right here, it says 1/200th of a second. That is our shutter speed. We're looking right here. Sometimes the screen will auto turn off, so you need to kind of press the button to re-engage the screen. But 1/200th of a second, that is the shutter speed indicator. Now, the dial on this camera is not on the top like the Canon is, it's actually on the back. So as you slide this, you can see the shutter speed changing. Now I might be changing the ISO over here, that's just because it's an auto ISO. So don't worry about this, ignore that. What we're actually changing here is the shutter speed right here. So we're at 200th of a second and 100th of a second. And if you go to live view, press this button right here, you're gonna also see the shutter speed down here. It says 1/100th. And you can see it changing as well. You can also see the shutter speed when you're looking through your viewfinder, not when live view's on, but when live view is not on, you can look through your viewfinder and you can see the shutter speed inside of your viewfinder as well. So we're gonna switch over to shutter priority mode. On the Nikon, you need to switch over to S, okay? S stands for shutter priority. And just as a reminder, shutter priority is where you set the shutter speed and your camera is gonna automatically set the aperture and your ISO for you, okay? Especially if your camera is on automatic ISO. If you don't have your camera on auto ISO, I'd suggest you do that. It's in your menu items. But if you do that, then the camera will set everything else for you. It's gonna be the same dial to set the shutter speed here as well. So you can see the shutter speed changing. We're in mode S up here, and that's the exact same place to change your shutter speed. And of course you can see it in live view and inside your viewfinder that way as well. All right, we're gonna switch over to the Sony. All right, so we've switched over to the Sony A6500, and we're in auto mode right now. So I'm gonna switch it over to manual simply by switching this dial over to M for manual mode. All right, now on the Sony, this is a mirrorless camera, so you're pretty much always looking through you know, what your image sensor is seeing at all times. So right here, we're not seeing just the generic info screen, so we're actually seeing what the picture is right now. You can see this 100, and actually it's just 1/25th of a second. I was pulled away from it a little bit. 1/25th of a second. This is the dial right here for manual mode to change the shutter speed, and you can see it's this, you know, this orange is the one that's selected, and you can see I'm changing it. Press that center button, it will select it. Now we're at 1/100th of a second. So that's simply how you change the shutter speed in manual mode. We're gonna switch over to S, which is shutter priority mode. Now remember, shutter priority is where you set the shutter speed and your camera's gonna set everything else for you as long as you're on auto ISO mode. I could check the ISO real quick, and we actually are on auto, so I'll press the center button and select it. If you're on something else like, you know, 200th, you could just simply slide up to auto, press the center button, now you're selected on auto ISO. You're welcome. Okay, so in order to change the shutter speed here, it's the exact same dial. You can do the same dial back here. It's gonna change your shutter speed. Now we're on 200th of a second. So it's the exact same thing. With the caveat that you can also use this dial up here. This dial is like the primary dial, so whatever mode you're in, this will actually change that, that setting as well. If you were in the AV mode, then this dial would change the aperture, but we're in shutter priority. So anyways, that's how you change the shutter speed in both manual and shutter priority modes. So now that you know how to change shutter speed on your specific camera, in the next lesson, I'm gonna be talking about, not we, I don't know who we is, I'm gonna be talking about how to use shutter speed in real time to achieve the type of images that you see in your head. Super excited, and I'll see you in the next lesson.